G'day there, ladies and gents of the internet. I am the Braveheart Aussie and welcome to a stream here on my channel. Whether you're watching this live or whether you're going to be watching this later on as a VOD. Let me just adjust some of the volume settings here. Yes, it's going to be a fun one. I've decided to really focus on a very different style of content here. I'm trying to, there we go, just reduce that down just a little bit, just so it's, music's playing in the background but isn't too loud. Yep, very good. Yeah, so welcome. This is going to be something very different on the channel. It's a different way for me to explore the channel and explore the project that we've been working on, and I guess what we've been trying to do so far in our world building project here on the channel, the Journey in World Building channel, relating to the Dark Diaspora. Being able to convey that and present that to you and explore it with you in a collaborative way, as well as in a different way, so we can look at different ways of building up this universe that we've created so far. We've just hit 85,000 subscribers on the channel, which is amazing, so thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed. Very much appreciate it. What we're going to be doing is effectively changing tact from our world building and lore videos episodes, which we've been doing a lot of, which is fantastic, and we're going to be adding to this a sort of more free-flowing TTRPG style role-play element to the universe and its exploration. So we're going to look at it almost from a character perspective, and this is really starting to tease into phase 3 of the project, where we're starting to look at more of the characters, settings, factions, all of those, away from settings and factions into characters and major events. And so this is going to be a really exciting one to look at, and I'm very, very excited to I guess get into a TTRPG style of game. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the project, this is this channel is a creative world building channel, and doing a creative world building project. The current project is a grimdark, post-apocalyptic world sci-fi universe, and we are looking to explore different settings and different concepts associated with that universe. We're in phase 2 of the project now. It's almost 15 months, 18 months, or 16 months old, so we're well and truly into the project in terms of its development now, which is fantastic. But yeah, so we're now starting to look at different ways in which we can explore the project, and this is one of them. As part of the project development, we've come up with a series of roll tables, and if I just click over here, you'll see that we actually have a dice rolling mechanic set up here on stream, so we're going to be able to roll some dice and be able to see what the different outcomes are. We've used the roll tables a number of times now, a couple of times for actually generating fully random settings on the channel, but also looking at ways in which we can play around with the character development or event development and those types of things. So I was for a little while there going down the path of actually setting up a full, TTRPG style of project and of development, but what we're going to pull back on the actual development of the full TTRPG rules, and instead use them just really to guide our sort of gameplay. This is going to be like a single player type game, so it's more about me sort of embodying the character, using the dice. I've got a bit of a story arc. These hopefully sessions will go for about two hours each, maybe a little bit longer. Might cut them down for YouTube, uploading it up there. And then also we're going to be diving into, as part of this, maybe 12 episodes. Maybe we'll see. I've got a bit of a story arc that I've got in mind, so we're going to see how that goes. So anyway, that sets up a little bit of the context. We have a character. Here we have, his name is Nathaniel Johansson, or Nate, as he is known to his friends. He's a mechanic, he's level 1, he has 10 HP. We have a series of attributes here, which we'll talk about in a second, but they're power, fortitude, evasion, intelligence, awareness, and charisma, or a charm. So very similar to a sort of D&D sort of character attributes sort of matrix or array, but it works slightly differently. It's slightly rules light, roll table heavy type of focus. Particular roles you can play on when boarded on a ship. Can be a pilot, can do tactical, or can do engineering, and it has a worker background, and some of that plays into interactions they'll have with our characters. We have our primary table here, which we'll be going through and identifying different events that take place, different quests, what we're working on. We have our current setting, and you can see here that we are currently on a ship floating in through space. This sort of pod thing here, which is looking very cool. So yeah, we're going to be in that sort of environment. And then, as I said before, we also have the dice roll. We have our narrative sort of table here, which we'll be jumping into to sort of talk about when we do sort of little sort of story narrative parts. And then obviously we also have a potential combat table as well, which is exciting. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that. I accidentally went through and paused and muted my mic there as I was having a bit of a coughing fit. Of course, perfect timing. I was just saying that we're going to, we went through all of these different types of tables that we have available to us, of scenes here that we'll work on. But we're going to go through here as part of our character, talk a little bit about their attributes here in a second, and then we're going to jump into a little bit of a narrative to set the scene. So let's go and do that now. Let's do this scene setting narrative, and we can, get started on our role play today. So let's get going. The deafening gnashing of tearing, crumpling metal echoed throughout the retrofitted pod, matched by a flashing brilliance of explosive decompression in the depths of the hold. The myriad signs of impending destruction of the FSS Duplicity Vice bombarded Nathaniel's senses as he was violently thrown from his makeshift bunk in his aft workshop. The airtight door that separated the aft helium-3 microfusion plant and AG manifold from the cavernous midship hold had slammed shut almost instantly, preventing the loss of much of the section's atmosphere. It was only a temporary reprieve, however, given the utter destruction that was being wrought to the ship by some unknown assailant. Yet it gave Nathaniel, the ship's mechanic, a fleeting moment of hope and survival. Nathaniel was only new to the Duplicity Vice, the pride and joy of Captain Sabrina Aura. He was replacing the ship's former mechanic after an unfortunate EVA accident that had seen him lost to the crew. Nathaniel was very familiar with the retrofitted pod design of the Duplicity Vice, however, having spent much of his young 23 years working on the ship in father's shop back in the Leeward Trojan asteroid cluster in the Nealis system on the dwarf planetoid of Aegyptus. Yet, the passing of his father and the loss of the shop had been the inspiration he needed to take up a post on a ship and see what the Diaspora had to offer. In that moment, however, it seemed most of what the galaxy could offer was pain and death. Yet, living in space and on the edge of danger for most of his life, Nathaniel moved without hesitation. He grabbed at his go bag that had been hurled across the floor of his workshop by the cataclysmic explosions and took several steps across the soiled metal floor plating just as the artificial gravity of the ship gave way. But he had expected this, and with his final step dived into the air, swimming in the weightless soup of the thinning atmosphere towards the opening aperture that was the entrance to the aft escape pod. As he flew, another crushing blow struck the other hull of the ship, carving through the port midship section and almost cleaving the ship in two. Fuel and fluid lines ruptured and froze almost instantly, while the stern of the ship was crushed in what seemed like a momentary micro-singularity. The force of the attack knocked the ship as Nathaniel entered the escape pod aperture, causing him to crash against the opening with a bruising blow to his hip. He screamed and yelled in pain as the aperture closed instantly behind him, the tight one-man space within the pod flooding with oxygen-enriched buffer fluid. Nathaniel's pain-induced scream allowed the fluid to pour effortlessly into his lungs, causing him to involuntarily choke and splutter at the unwelcome intrusion. Yet the fluid immediately began to do its job, directly oxygenating his blood as the environment filled with viscous liquid, offering him further protection from the elements. And then the elongated escape pod, no more than 10 feet in length, launched. The explosion of the Duplicity Vice was dazzling, as the uncontrolled fusion of the helium-3 reactor went critical, bathing the area within a vaporizing field of hyper-energized particles. Nathaniel watched in his sensor display as the plasma bubbled and bubble expanded out, creating a wake that licked at the aft of his escape pod with fiery fury. Yet it was then, as his biocybernetic implants began to dump a course of powerful drugs called the fog directly into his brain, he saw it. An entity, framed by what looked like a fissure in space-time reality itself, seemingly feasting on the nuclear stew of particles and energies created by the explosion of the ship. It made no sense, and Nathaniel could barely comprehend what he was witnessing in that split second before his mind went blank, his higher brain functions rendered deadened and protected against the worst of the FTL effects of the malady. And then the escape pod jumped. Nathaniel was awoken by the gentle jostling of his protective fluid, buffering him from the worst of the atmospheric entry. His mind was clouded from the fog as he came to. The only sensor he could grasp in his still narrowed vision was the rapid decline in the altimeter, showing his impending crash landing. Escape pods were poorly equipped, designed to launch from the mothership and jump to the nearest system in their local codex and land. And the landing part was often rough, to say the least. Fortunately for Nathaniel, the surface of this planet was more forgiving than most, as the seed-shaped escape pod slowed only momentarily from the dying embers of the pod's AG manifold before plunging into the vast ocean waters of the planet. Splashdown. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have landed on the planet. Our character has survived the apparent destruction by some entity of the ship, the Duplicity Vice, and he has instead found himself now on another planet. Hopefully he will look to survive and make his way on this new world. So that set the scene. We now have our character, Nathaniel Johansson, level 1, HP of 10. He is a mechanic. He has attributes, array of attributes that I mentioned before: power, fortitude, evasion, intellect, awareness, and charm. It's a type of, very TTRPG type of array. He can do a number of different ship roles, which doesn't really matter at the moment because he's now on another planet. He's now on a planet, he's not on a ship, and then obviously he has the workers themselves, which is awesome. Let me just turn this off and let me go back to character. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the primary section here. We're going to go to our current setting. We are no longer on the planet. So we're going to go here. I'm going to change this. We seem to be on some sort of water world. We don't really know where we are at the moment. So I'm just going to change that over to that. And we're going to change this from space to water world. Question mark. And that's going to flow through then. So there, we're going to pick one of these. Let's go here and pick a planet icon that's suitable for what we're working with here. We want something that's like a bluish color. That's not too bad. Yeah, let's go with that one. So we're on some sort of water world. There we go. Very good. Okay, so we are going to now... Oh, hang on. This needs to move over there. Okay, so what have we got? What types of things do we reckon that we're likely to have in our inventory here? Let's go to inventory details. So we're likely to have... We have our backpack. Backpack. Yep. We're also, in that backpack, we're going to have some rations. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to have our rations. We're going to have, let's do some dice rolling. We're going to see how many days rations we have. We're going to go in here and we're going to do a dice roll. We're going to set this up as a 1d4. And let's see how many days rations we manage to have in our area here. And we have 2 days of rations. That is not a lot. Let's do a quick update of this roll here. This is this one here, and we're going to do our dice results. First roll is going to be 1d4 equals 2 for rations. Okay, we have 2 rations. That is not great. So next thing, so we have 2 rations. That's what we have on our character sheet here. So let's go and update this. Inventory details. We have 2 days of rations. Rations for 2 days. Very good. I'm going to say we also have water in the pod. We have water was going to be created by recycling, water recycling. I think that's the way we're going to do that. Okay, what else we have? We have some weapons. We have 2 times vibro blades. So I'm envisaging this is like a sort of metal sort of dagger that sort of has a sort of a vibrating type of blade that causes it to have extra damage. So we're going to have 2 of those, and we're also wearing body armor. Just some standard body armor on the shoulders, some greaves, some on the forearms, that type of stuff as well. So we have body armor as well. I'm going to put a little dot in behind this here, like this. Very good. What else have we got? I think we're probably in our pack going to have some sort of small medical kit, which we can use later on. I think we can also. I imagine that. We're going to have a credit. We're going to have a credit disc, and we're going to say we have. Let's roll. Let's see what our dice is going to show us in terms of how much credits we have. We're going to roll a d20 and multiply that by 5 and see how many credits we've got. So if we do that, we go here, d20. Oh, hang on. Did I not? Oh, yep. 1d20. Okay. Oh, yep. 18 times 5. Very nice. So what's that? That's 190, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so we have 190 credits. That's pretty good. That is pretty good indeed. I'll take that. That will help a little bit. Okay, character. Let's go here. And inventory. We have 190 credits. 190 credits. And they're going to go CC, which is coalition credits. What else would we have in our inventory? We've got rations. We've got our armor and weapons. We've got a backpack. We've got a small medical kit that's in there. We'd have a flare. Some sort of flare. And, yeah. Sounds good. Okay. And that's what I think we have on us. Let's go now to our primary. And I think the first quest that we definitely need to do is we're going to need to survive the ocean. 2 plus 2 days. Survive ocean for 2 days, yes. What else are we going to need to do? Find out location. Yep. Find out about location. Yep. We need to do that. We also need to get rescued. Actually, that's probably number 2, isn't it? Get rescued. Find out about location. Yep. What else do we need to do? Yeah. That's the main thing at the moment. We've crash landed, so that is that. Let's go to our current quest. We're going to change that one, and we're going to make the current quest to be survive ocean. Yep. And we've crash landed. So let's go to our journal, our event journal here. Okay, event journal, and crash landed in water world. Okay, done. Crash landed in water world of some sort. Okay, very good. So let's now have a look at what we want to do. What would we be doing to try and survive? We've got 2 days. So I have a bit of a roll table here of potential things that could happen to us each of these days. So let's go to our roll table. Let's go here and let's change this to a 1d6. Okay, and hit that and let's roll. Okay, and we get a 5. Okay. So, Nathaniel comes out of the fog as he's landed on this planet. He's feeling, his mind is returning to him. The pod is sort of bobbing in the water. It's surrounded by like an inflatable sort of rubber sort of ring that's sort of keeping it in the water and keeping it afloat. And then there's a small hatch at the very top that he can sort of physically climb out of. The space inside is really small. It's probably enough for him to maybe sit in, but for the most part, he's, pretty much unable to do anything but get used to this environment, or really needs to be out of this space. So he sort of opens up the nose of the pod, this sort of elongated sort of pod, sort of cylindrical but sort of like rounded nose, and he sort of opens up the nose cone and sort of climbs out through this sort of small little ladder and onto the outside of the pod. It is a bright sunny day and there is water in every single direction. It's a pretty flat ocean at the moment, and he is definitely being impacted by the waves a little bit of a swell, but it's pretty flat. There's a little bit of a breeze, not a huge amount. The sun is still relatively low in the sky, so it's a relatively early morning as he starts this first day. We rolled a 5, and so over the course of this day, we managed to take a stock of our supplies and realize that, we don't have enough food. We've only got enough rations to get through the next day or so, next couple of days. So we really need to find out, find somewhere. So I think one of the things we need to look at doing is setting off our flare. So noting the 5, I think the first thing we'll do in the day is setting off our flare, and I'm just going to roll another d20 this time. 1d20, and we roll a 13. Okay, very good. Okay, so that is how far away. That's how far away this flare is going to be seen. So we sort of launch up this flare into the air. We launch this flare. It's like a flare gun, sort of holding it. We launch it up into the air as high as we can. We sort of position it so basically we can go straight up and get as high as we can. And we are with this flare. It's sort of like a small module that's trailing into the air, and it goes up as high as possible. It's leaving this massive sort of red smoke trail behind it, and as it's also giving off this very small little pulsing effect, which is sort of like an electronic pulse, and this flare sits in the air and it hovers there for a total of 13 hours. So it's about probably between 1,800 and 2,100 feet in the air, and it's hovering there. It's no longer giving off smoke after the first hour, but it's hovering there and it's pulsing and it's giving off an electromagnetic signal. So it's going to go for about 13 hours, and that's awesome because that's going to help to determine to see how long it takes for anybody to discover that. So let's quickly update the results. One is a 1d6 equals 5 first day event, and the next roll was a 1d20. Oh, hang on, that's right, I forgot. We actually did a 1d20 for equals 18 for credits. We did a d6, and then we also did a 1d20 equals length of time of was it a flare duration.
Okay, very good. So, we rolled a 5. Over the course of the rest of the day, we're stockpiling it, and you notice that the floods, the oxygenated liquid that was in the pod, gets flooded out and dumped into the water. As it does, what we notice is that the ship itself starts to attract a bunch of life around it. Different types of you can see the oceans are just filled with different sea creatures. Not a lot of what you would classify as fish, but definitely a lot more of like squid and those types of things. And in fact, you can see now that there's a bunch of tentacles of smaller little squid type creatures that are sort of making their way onto, like, coming out of the water and onto the surface of the top of the flotation ring, or that's ring around the pod itself, and you can see that they have like almost barbed hooks in them, and it's starting to cause some damage. So we're going to do a little bit of a combat round here. We're going to have 3 rounds of enemies. The first one we're going to have is a squid 1. Yep. And we're going to go here, and we're going to go and call it, yep, and there, and we're going to go down this, and we're going to hit here, and we're going to go squid #1. Very good. So that's the first one. It's going to be squid 1. Then we're going to have these creatures be very, very low HP, very low details, or very low life and HP and power. But we're going to use this to test our round-based, sort of roll light-based, what's called combat mechanic that we're going to be applying here. So that's the first one. Yep. Okay. Squid 2. Very good. Okay, and final one will be squid 3. Okay. Yep, excellent. Same again. Squid 3. Okay, fantastic. So there we have our 3 combat session. Now, the way combat works is your combat is determined by your character. So the character is a mechanic, and so as a mechanic, you're quite robust and resilient compared to other features. So you've actually got a +1 to power and a +2 to fortitude, which are your 2 highest of the attributes array, your 2 highest scores. So you're quite robust. So the more robust characters, like mechanics or mercenaries, tend to go at the end of the order. So your character class determines the order in which you then go in combat, as in this sort of rules light type of approach that I've adopted. And effectively, you don't roll to hit, you hit automatically, and it's effectively, you roll to do damage, and it's damage. It's your attack roll, which is a D. So your attack roll minus your minus your plus your weapon and your power, and then you'll subtract from that the armor. I'm just going to pause this for a second. Okay, sorry about that. And then what we do is, in order to have the dice roll, so let's go back to the combat here. What we're going to do for each of these enemies is we'll go here, and so we're going to have their power is going to be -1, and their fortitude is going to be -1 as well. They're both actually, we're going to make their fortitude -2 because they're quite low in terms of their creatures, in terms of their abilities. Their weapon is going to be a +1, and their armor is going to be a 0. Actually, armor can be +1. So they're quite resilient creatures. They've got weapons, but they're, in terms of their armor and their exoskeleton, the likes, but they're quite not very powerful. So let's update that for each of these. Let's go to squid 2. Yep. Let's also just center these here. Yep. And then squid 3. Very good. Okay. And center again. Okay, and we're just going to go here, and we're going to put these in the center, like that. Very good. Now, they're all going to go first before me, and they're going to be attacking the ship itself and the rubber of the ship. Now, the way, so what we basically do is we do, let me bring up my roll table here, so I can sort of go through the attack mechanism here and see what the effect is. So they have a +1 on their weapons, which is their attack, and so I think we just need to roll. Let's go to my roll tables here. These are just for me. There we go. So we get a movement, an action, and an interaction per round. So all weapons have the same, which is a +2. So our vibroblades gives us a +2 for weapons, and our body armor gives us a +2 for our armor. These guys have a D4 for their attack. So there's going to be 3 of them, but they're all attacking the ship, which has a +2 to its defense. So let's go through here and go to our roll tables. And we're going to go into our browser, and we're going to do a 3D4. I'm going to roll all of these. Sorry, we're going to do 3d6. It's going to be 6 to attack. Sorry. The armor on the ship is a +2, and they get then if we do that. So let's do these at a time. So a 4, a 5, and a 4. Okay. So for our combat here, the first guys. Also, they need HP. HP of 6. Okay, so first one rolls a 4 for an attack, gets a +1 for their attack, so it's a 5, and then I need to roll a D4 +2 for the ship. So we go back here, so it's, let's just make a note of that one. Dice rolls. So I think in each of these, what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll 1d6 plus 1d4. There we go. Okay, so rolled a 6 and is a 4. So it's their damage. So 6 is the damage die from them. 4 is the armor die for the ship. So the combat, let's go here. What we're also going to do is we're going to create a ship one as well here. There we go. Okay. Yes. Okra. Yes. 48. Yep. Ship. We're going to go, there's no weapons. Armor is a +2. And HP is 30. For the ship, that seems reasonable. We're going to go center, and let's drag that down here as well. So this is actually, we're going to treat this as an ally since it's being attacked. Okay, so the first roll was a 6 on the attack, so we +1 for the weapon. Okay, so that's a 7. And we -1 for the power, so that's back to a 6. So those two cancel out. So whatever we roll is roll. So it takes 6 damage. Now we rolled a 1 on the armor, +2 is 3, so it takes 3 damage. So the HP of the ship, of the pod, is now down to 27 after the first attack. Second attack, let's do that roll again. We get a 6 again, but this time we get a 2. So if we go back to combat, so that's going to take it down by 2 this time. Down to 5. And last one, dice rolls. It is a 1 and a 4, so it takes no damage at all because 1, and then we get the 4 on top of the +2 is 6, so yeah, it takes no damage. So that is all done. So that combat round is finished. Now it is our turn. So we can see these tentacled squid-like creatures are coming in. Their barbs are sort of pressing in on this rubbery ring that's keeping our escape pod afloat. And so we are basically attacking at these things. Where we see these things and then we see them attacking, so we then jump in ready to do some more damage. So let's do some damage to them to try and fend us off. So we launch off here and we go and we attack these squid creatures. So we're going to attack, we get 1 attack per round, so this is potentially going to take 3 rounds. If I can do 6 damage, we'll see if it might end up making this less than 6 HP. might end up making these 4 HP since they are tiny little creatures. So we actually, we're a mechanic. We've got a power of 1, fortitude 2. So we get one, we get one extra attack, so we get 2 attacks. So let's see what we do. So we roll our daggers, vibro blades. We have 2 of them. They are a D6 damage dice. Let's go back to dice. And these guys, their armor is a D4 as well. So let's go back here. So we're going to do 1d6 and 1d4. Okay, let's turn this on to roll. So we do 1 damage, and then 3 armor. Okay, so let's go back to our attack. Let's go back to our combat screen here. So we did 1 damage on the die, plus 2 for our blade. So that's 3, plus 1 from our power. So that's a 4. And they rolled a 4 on the damage die, was it? It was 4, wasn't it? Yep, 4. Minus 2, so it's minus 2 there. So that means that we are going to do 2 damage to that first one. Let's go here and properties, and it takes 2 damage. Done. Okay, and now we'll roll again. And 6 and 4. Okay, I think that's going to be enough. So if we go back to combat, it's 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9, and it's 4 minus 2 is 7, and yes, so this one, first squid, is completely killed. Okay, very good. First squid is done, and that is the end of the first. That's my 2 attacks using my 2 vibro blades on that squid. Second round, the inflatable so the inflatable ring around there is looking like it's okay. It's taken a bit of damage. There's no major leaks yet, but you can see some areas where these sort of spikes on these tentacled squid-like creatures seem to have started to puncture the exterior, or started to scratch on the surface of this hardened rubber that forms that's keeping your escape pod afloat. So let's go with another round of attacks here. So we're going to do again. It's a D6 for their attack, a D4 for the armor of the ship, and this gets a plus 2. So they're once they net everything out here, whatever their dice roll is minus the D4 plus 2. So we'll see what sort of damage this does. Okay. So it's a 1 plus a 3, so that's a 1, and then it's a 3 plus 2, which is 5. So no damage on the first attack. And the second attack from the squid is a 2 plus 5, no damage. Sorry, it's a 5, so that is a 4 because of the, and here, where is it? Combat. It's a 5 minus 1, so it's a 4, and then I rolled a 5 on the dice, which is a plus 2, so therefore no damage again that round. Fantastic. So they scratch at the creature, scratch and some more. The first one, seeing the vibroblades come down, just slice into this squid-like creature, diving into the knife blades going into the water and carving into this sort of almost octopus-like, but with like an extended head, like almost like a bullet shaped, but like a rifle bullet shaped, very elongated sort of crescendoing point at the very top of this creature. Has 12 different tentacled legs and manages to sort of slice into the creature's head, causing this sort of green bloody ichor to sort of spill out of it. Second attack, we have Johansson again is attacking. Nate is attacking. So again, D6 plus 2. Minus 4, so let's go for D6 and a D4. Whatever they roll is minus 1, and then whatever we're going to roll is going to be plus 3. So that's going to be minus 1 for their armor and a plus 3 for their attack. So let's go plus 3 for my attacks. Let's roll. 6 plus 3, 9. 3 minus 1, 2, so that does 7 damage. They have HP of 4. Squid number 2 is dead. I can sort of get Nate, the first time he did this attack, he saw where he sort of did maximum damage to that creature. Goes, oh, I get it. You can kill these things by stabbing them in the face. And so he does. He goes and stabs them in the face and kills the first one. Gets our second attack. His power is 1, so he gets a normal attack plus 1. And so that's going to be another attack. Let's roll again. 5 plus 3 is 8. 4 minus 1 is 5 and does 5 damage and manages to kill the second squid and protect the ship. So manages to survive the first day there. So that is all done. We're going to go back into our primary thing and make a journal post here. We're going to go properties and we're going to go to fort off small squid attack. Very good. And then we've also, at the end of the first day, if we go back to our character and we have a look at our rations, we are down to 1 day of rations after that. Done. We didn't take any damage because of the effect of the they were attacking the ship itself, so that's all good. So I think that's all done, and I think that's probably going to be the end of our day. Now, what I do want to do is I would like to roll some dice to see, since that flare was up in the air for most of the day, I want to see if somebody is able to identify it. So let's go here and change this to a D20. We rolled a 13 before, so that's going to be our DC. And we're going to probably add, I think, a plus. So there's going to be 2 parts of this. One part is whether the people see the flare that has gone up, and the second part is whether they're going to use the flare to be able to, how quickly they can get there. So we're going to do a D20 to see if they can see the flare first, if anybody has potentially seen the flare. So let's roll a D20. And that is a 4, and so that suggests that's a no. That there's no indication at the moment that there has been anybody seeing the flare, which is not great. Now, the difference was 4, so we're going to do another roll at night, so 9 hours later. So it ended after the first 13, we're going to do another roll and to see if after the first 9 hours... Oh, it was almost a natural 20, so that's a 10. So it's only a 13, even with a 4. So that means, I think it was a plus 4 before. So that means it's just got, so yes, after the end of that first day, about, 19 hours. So effectively 5 hours before the start of the next day, which we're counting as like 9 a.m. in the morning. So about 4 a.m. in the morning, the sensor that was in the pod, it's flown back down, and now you're holding it in with the pod, and you notice that it starts to, the little red light on it that was flashing has all of a sudden turned to green, suggesting that you are in a good position to be able to to fend off, to be rescued in the next little while. But you don't know how long it's going to get there. The rescue is going to get there. You don't know how long what the type of rescue is, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We're going to have to see what that looks like as we go along. But that was our first day of playing, which is fantastic. So what we're going to jump in now to do is our second day. So we've going back to our character. We have 1 day of rations. So first thing we're going to do is go back to our dice roll here. We're going to turn that off. We're going to go and do our D6, 1d6 again for our events table, and see what our event looks like. And it's a 2. Okay, very good. Okay, so looking at my roll table here, the 2, over the course of the day, you wakes up having sort of almost semi-seated position, very much fetal position in the pod of the pod. You go outside and you feel, really for the first time in your life, on a world open and habitable, having grown up in Fool's Edge, which is not the most habitable, like, open place. You're in a bunch of different planets, sort of constructs and things like that. What you are looking at so you're not used to this open expanses and the likes, but what you are increasingly finding, which is amazing, is rain. You've never experienced rain before. This is the first time you've had water literally falling from the sky as it sort of comes down onto you. And you quickly go into the survival kit that's in the pod. And in fact, we should probably, for the purposes of our character inventory, go in here and change this. We're going to say we've used, the flare is going to be used. And then we're going to also have a survival kit. And survival kit will include things like some, that's probably where the rations are located. So what we're going to do is say that in there's like a tarp. So you hook up the tarp and you're collecting additional rainwater from the rain. What you do notice, however, is over the course of the day, the rain that's coming through, the swell starts to pick up a little bit. So all of a sudden, you're having sort of an undulating feeling that is, that's undulating sort of swell is causing you to feel unwell, feel queasy, and also has the potential, I guess, to topple over your boat. So let's roll a d20. I know we rolled a d20 before, but I actually want to roll primarily d10s now as sort of to see what happens. I think that's, we don't get to use a d10 very often. I really like it as a die. So let's roll a d10. See how severe this is. That actually looks cocked. So let's roll it again. And it's a 4, so it's a below average storm. So we're not in any risk of the pod being turned over. But let's see now. We'll roll a d10, and we're going to add our fortitude, which is a +2, just to see how we go in terms of feeling sick and unwell. And 6 + 2, 8, yes, well and truly above average on a D10. So very much, feeling, maybe a little bit queasy, but for the most part, are doing quite well. So we managed to second day. Let's go back to our primary sheet here. Second day event. We're going to have a rain, storm, collected water, no damage or ill health. So we don't need to do anything about that, which is great. So we're looking pretty good all in all on our second day here of surviving the ocean. Now, we need to roll to see. That was the event for the day. Let's have a look now. Let's go to our dice roll. And now we're going to do a d10 again. And now we're going to roll a d20 for the number of hours. How far away are people going to be? In this case, we want lower the better. So let's roll a d20. And we've got, is it a 5? Yeah, that looks like a 5, isn't it? It's the one on top. Yeah. So it's actually only 5 hours away. So as we are traveling through and bobbing in the ocean, we notice that over in the far to the east, you're starting to like struggle a little bit with the glare, but you swear you can see something far to the east, something that seems to be a structure or maybe an island, and it's really hard to say because it's sort of cresting over the curvature of the planet and you can barely see it. But by the time you get to mid-afternoon, you can tell that whatever this is, it is an island. And at first, you're looking at this island and you go, oh, the swell must be taking me to the island because it's getting bigger and bigger as you go along. But then you realize that, because you can start to see as you're sort of getting close, and it's well and truly over the horizon, it's getting to you, you can see that it's got a series of structures on top of it, cranes and buildings, and seems to have sort of like an almost bowl shape to it. So there's sort of the edges sort of curve up a little bit, and although the majority of it's sitting in the water, you can see sort of the lip around the edge of this, and you can also tell from the glint that there's some sort of, it's a more metallic structure. So as much as it looked like an island, you realize, no, you're not floating towards this island with these structures on it. The island itself is floating towards you and is coming to rescue you, has seen your flare and the signal given off and is now coming to you. So you are managed to get saved, or at least you managed to get approached over in the time. So we're going to go here and we're going to add in found by what we're calling a floaton, which is a floating island, which is on this planet. And if those of you who are following the current setting deep dive would know exactly, therefore, where we are. But what we're going to do is, so you, as you approach, you can see that it's somewhat rough barnacled sort of, exterior, and you can even see some of those other squid from earlier, the things sort of clinging to the bottom side of this and then falling back into the water. But what you can see is that this looks like a huge sort of cylindrical, sort of circular sort of disc shape, pretty much exactly circular, with a sort of a bowed effect of sort of like, as I said, a bowl effect that sort of comes up at the lip on the very edges of this disc. It has an almost fully metal base underneath the water, and you can see blocks on there that sort of helped with the corrosion, blocks of like magnesium or some other type of metal, a bunch of anchors sort of on the edge, and you can also see what look like a circular rubber sort of impact absorbers all the way around on the very edge of the disc itself. On top, you've got a much clearer view now in the middle of the afternoon. The weather has cleared, and you can see that onto this float-on island very clearly. There's a whole bunch of structures, houses, fishing nets, lots of cranes, and like small little hydraulic cranes. Also, you can see people. Less so now, because the edge of this is now well above your head. It's probably the edge of the float-on is probably about 30 feet above the surface of the water, and so you're only probably like 9 feet above, probably about 8 feet above the water when you're standing at the top of your capsule. So it's towering above you, but you could see people sort of on the edge. And even now, they're sort of looking out over the edge of the float-on down upon you and sort of, waving to you as they do. So, you hear a voice call down to you, goes, "Oi, what are you doing down there? That's not very safe." And so, you hear a voice, a younger man, probably mid-20s, maybe early 30s, calling down, making an obvious comment about your lack of safety as you literally eat the last of your rations. Let's go to your character. Let's go to rations. Let's go to here, and let's say rations for 0 days. That's definitely something we'll need to sort out here. And so he calls down. So what we're going to do, let's roll. Let's go to our character. And so we have a -2 in charm. So that means our social interactions are not going to be great. So let's go to our dice rolls. Let's go here. Let's change this to a 1d10. We're going to see what sort of response we come up with as part of this. So we roll a d10. And, ooh, that was lucky. 9 minus 2 is a 7. 7 is enough. And so you call up and you say, "Oh, I crash landed here. I actually don't even know where I am. My ship was destroyed, and it's just sent me to the nearest habitable planet to survive. I've been here for like 36 hours already. Can you help me, please?" And so the guy up the top there seems, taken by, your comments and the seeming genuineness of your situation, of your circumstances, is looking down. Let's do an intellect check. I want to see if our character notices anything. So it's a 9 and our intellect is a -1. So that's, I'm actually thinking for this character, it would be less of an intellect being -1. I think we're going to change our attribute tables from a -1 for intellect to a 0, and an awareness is -1. So we like get carried away by how in depth we are with the particular activities that we're doing. So with an intellect of 0, that was a 9. So yeah, I'm pretty comfortable that this character would be able to determine that the guy who is looking down at you, and now with a group of like probably 10 or 15 other people looking down, yes, they're looking at you, but they're very much also looking at your pod, and you get the impression that yes, they seem to be genuine in wanting to help you or wanting to, inquire about you, and they believe you that you're not from on planet, but they're very much eyeing off your pod. And so with that information, you go back to them and you say, "Oh, if you help me, you can have the pod. I don't really have much, but you can have this pod. I'm assuming there's something you could salvage from it." And you can hear your voice going out, and he goes, "Oh yeah, if that's good with you, mate, that sounds great. Yeah, well, hang on. We'll get the crane ready. Just hold on tight. And so you see the boom of a crane come over and a hook come down, sort of metal, sort of gantry type crane at the end. This hook on this sort of series of metal chain and wire links that goes down, and sort of you hook it up and you sort of close close the top of the pod, of which there's a hook at the very edge of the nose, and you hook it onto that and you secure that in place, and then you ride your way up to the on this thing out of the water. As you do, you see more of those squid creatures sort of falling from the falling from the pod into the water as you're going along. So you've been found by the floaton, and you managed to negotiate. Sorry, just hang on a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just had an interruption there. So we are basically let's do a quick roll to see if we can hold on tight as we sort of travel up onto the surface of this thing. We're riding it on the outside. And we had a 6 plus, this would be power plus 1, 7, no problems. We ride the pod over, and we get lowered down onto the surface of the of this floaton island. And the first thing you can tell as you sort of are on this is that this thing is like maybe 150 meters wide. Like, this is a sizable craft, or what feels like a sizable craft. You can see now that you're on top of it, there's like windmills and there's like shed type structures, and then there's also a bunch of areas where there's like what seems to be like food plots, like growing food in sort of hydroponic plots and like open food plots. There's some trees that have been planted around, which you haven't seen any sign of land yet, and so you don't really know where these trees could have come from, but you can see these sort of tree structures, and from this you're able to you sort of are lowered down and you step off, and you immediately start to wobble as you have been in the sea for quite some time, so you haven't had really much of a chance to get used to the area, to walking on somewhere that's more stable. Now, we've had a few rolls here, so in a 1d10 is going to be we're in a 2d20, and it was a 4 and a 10 floaton pod escape pod found, and then there was also a 1d10, and it was the charm, 1d, so it was 1d10 7 charm, yep, and then there was also a 1d10 equals 9 intellect. Very good. So let's go back to our primary thing. We've been found by a floaton, and we have been brought on board. On board floaton. So the guy who you're speaking to from above on the top of the surface is going, "Oi! Oh, good to have you on board, mate. Thanks for giving us the pod. Is there any personal effects or anything you need to get out of there or not? Just let me know, and then I'll start hand this over to the team so that we can salvage some of the stuff out of it. Well, you look pretty rough. Do you need some food or water?" And the guy and you go, "Oh yeah, actually that'd be really great. I've been very much I've been out here for like 36 hours or so. I'm so glad you got my flare." He goes, "Yeah, caught that. Didn't see the smoke or anything, but we saw the ping of the buoy flare go off in our sensors, so we thought we'd better go and check. Always have to make sure you're taking care of people out here on the vast blue." Oh, well, that's good to know. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out and helping me. Well, and so then the guy sort of helps to usher you away as you sort of grab your bag. You grab some of your personal belongings, the survival kit, the med pack, your weapons and armor, which are still on you, and all any of the other items in there. You also do a very quick download of the sensors of the escape pod. And so you get that sort of, loaded up onto your the credit disc, which is a little circular sort of disc, which acts as sort of like a digital hosting for your particular credit balance, but also can serve as a hold files and things like that. So you download the sensors balance because you know what happened in space, what happened to the ship you're in was not natural, was not normal. It wasn't a normal sort of event. So you want to be very comfortable with the fact that you have you've got a record of what happened, because to be honest, you're trying to form a memory in your mind. Actually, let's do a quick dice roll and see what your intellect is. 4-0. Yeah, you're really struggling to hold the thoughts in your mind of what's happening on this when you're on this ship. So now that you've landed, about what happened to the Duplicity Vice. So yeah, really struggling to sort of to comprehend and understand what that looks and what that was. So you remember though to download a copy of the sensor file with the visuals so that you can sort of keep a record of that, and maybe you'll get a chance to review that at some other time in the future when you get a chance. But at the moment you've got a record of that, and you hand over your pod, and with that you get yourself rescued. So the main guy, he's sort of standing with you, with your character, and sort of walking you away. He's a relatively lanky guy, very sort of big nose, very almost like a rat face type of appearance to him. A very sort of angular face, sort of pointy chin, pointy nose. He's got sort of reddish hair, but it's thinning. But he seems to be pretty young, probably in his sort of late 20s, maybe. He has a very high nasally sort of voice. Very lanky, very lithe, but seems to carry a lot of authority. He's ordering some people around as he's going around and sort of, telling people to, work on the escape pod and salvage some stuff there. And you can already turn around and see the escape pods being moved over by a group of people. You can look around and you see a bunch of children around. They're all gathered around you, sort of watching you, and you realize, oh yeah, it's probably like 3:34. If there is a school, you don't even know if they have school here. They're watching you and are keeping an eye on you. Your Curiosity, the man from the water who was fished from the water, a bit of a curiosity. They're all dressed in what is a lot more of like a hessian or type of canvas type of material. Very functional, little bit of not a huge amount of color, lots of browns and greys and greens in the texture. You're in this sort of like tan orange sort of jump flight suit. You got a grey jacket zipper. You've got your utility belt over your shoulder, and you've got your 2 vibro blades in sheaths on your sort of hips and thighs. So you're looking pretty much very different to what the rest of them look. You look like a space jockey, and they very much look like they're fishing. And in fact, you can tell. Let's have a look and see. We'll do a dice roll, and we'll do your awareness check, which is a -1. And you get an 8, so you're looking around and you're pretty comfortable. You can see that there is a bunch of those squid creatures and different types of squid creatures on the different, sort of like a conveyor belt that's being pulled up by a net and sort of and being dumped into this sort of funnel and then down onto a conveyor. And you can see they're sort of being sliced through, and you can see these creatures that were the ones that attacked your unknowingly or knowingly attacked your ship are being effectively sliced through, their tentacles cut off, and are being processed. And you get the impression that they're being processed either for food or for some other type of use. But yeah, you're looking around and you can see lots of different. There's fishing vessels, fishing areas. You can see a bunch of surrounding sort of sheds that have different what looks like piles and piles of dried cordage. You can see sort of large sort of hanging sail structures. It looks like this island relies somewhat on sails. You can see these large sail structures sort of everywhere around the area, sort of being put up now that they've rescued you. Sails being raised once again to sort of catch some of the breeze, the wind, and sort of propel them forward and away. And then finally, you can see also around there, blowing in the breeze a little bit, is the sort of large sort of what look like structures with seaweed hanging from that. You can see different varieties of seaweed. It seems to be being dried in the air of the ocean, dried in the air. And again, you can just see real sort of almost like a fishing village on an island that's floating through the waters. A very cool sort of environment to find yourself on. So the guy says, "Oh, look, let's go get you some food, and yeah, we can answer any of your questions. You can tell me what's happened, and hopefully we can find somebody who can help you. Okay? But just so you know, you might be here for a little while, maybe like a week, because we're quite a ways out. So you're lucky that we found you. Actually, we're quite a ways out. So you could have definitely been out here for a lot longer than only 36 hours, and get a big storm, or you get a thalassa come by, and all of a sudden you're done for, mate. So yeah, pretty lucky, hey." And so you're still a little bit shell-shocked, but you go, "Oh yeah, look, I really, really appreciate it. So if there's anything I can do to help, I'll work, I'll work for my keep if you need me to, but I really appreciate that." He said, "Oh well, yeah, we'll sort that out. Don't worry, we'll put you to work. But yeah, let's get you some food. Let's get you checked out by the medics." So you're led to what is a very large structure, very close to the center of the island, and it's a large shed, and you go inside, and there are just tables everywhere, and you enter what it looks like effectively a type of mess hall. Let's get an idea from an awareness roll. And an 8, 7 again. So you've seen probably like 300 people, maybe. Like, you get the impression there's a lot of people on this island for an island that's sort of like, I think, what did he say, like 200 meters 200 meters wide. What's that? It's about 600 feet in diameter. So there's a lot of people on this island, and in fact, you can see what look like sort of walk-up apartment type structures. Everything's made out of metal. That's one of the big things you notice. You don't see a lot of wood. You see some trees, but you get the impression that those are more for, I don't know, you don't know what they're for, but you do see some trees on the island, on this island, but they don't seem natural to this. Like, it's almost like a willow type of setting, or other types of trees, something that's maybe been imported and has been planted on the island to give it a little bit of an ecosystem. You don't know. All you know is that, yeah, there's very much a focus on, there's quite a few people around. And even in the middle of the afternoon, as you go into the mess hall, there's still probably about 20 or 30 people in there having hot drinks, or being served at these large canteens. And so, this guy walks up and takes you to, he says, "Oh, Janice. Yeah, Janice, found this one. Just fished this one out of the water. Doesn't seem to be a local. Oh, sorry, mate. I never actually introduced myself. I'm Jediah. Yeah, I sort of run the scouting areas and some of the salvage parts of our enterprise here on the Floaton. This is Haven's Keep. This is the Floaton of Haven's Keep, mate. So yeah, hopefully, welcome aboard. Sorry, what was your name again?" And you sort of respond and go, I'm Nathaniel Johansson. My friends call me Nate though. But yeah, I was a mechanic on a ship, but we ran into some trouble, and the ship went down. I managed to escape, and I actually don't know where I am at the moment. Oh yeah, well mate, this is a planet. This is Ozovan. This is a water planet. We're way down in the southwest of the Diaspora. It's pretty long ways out here actually. And so you get confirmation of your current setting is called Ozovan. Okay, and we're going to do a quick change to the setting. We want to find a water world that we're going to use as the planetary setting. Don't really know much about Ozovan, but you could use that one. That looks good. Yep, and let's just decrease the sizes of that. There we go. Welcome to Ozovan. Let's see if you can do, let's do an intellect check to see if you know anything about this setting. So let's do a D10 again. Intellect is a 0, and that's a 4. You're not in the state of mind at the moment to really know where Ozovan is. You've probably heard of it. Maybe you've heard of the name before. You're from Falls Edge. You're sort of in the same sort of broad quadrant, but it's quite a ways away. This is pretty far out in the galactic southwest, so you're on the edge of the world, edge of the universe type stuff here. So yeah, I'm not surprised that you haven't really heard a lot of details around this before. So let's do 1d10, and that was a 4 intellect. Okay. So he goes, oh well, good to meet you, mate. Hope I can call you Nate. Yeah, well, mechanic, hey, yeah, we've always got you some use for mechanics. So I'll definitely get you to help out around here while we're making our run around here. We'll be back to town hopefully in the next sort of maybe week or so. We're on our way back now, but we took a bit of a reasonable sort of route around where we're in the middle of doing some processing and still do some more fishing. We might end up doing some diving later on as we get closer to town. But yeah, if you're up for it, yeah, I'll get you to, but yeah, don't worry about that now. You go and help yourself, get yourself some food, and yeah, we'll get yourself all checked out by the medic. And so you are served a bunch of food, a sort of metal sort of pressed plate type thing where you are served a bunch of different things. There's like a green spinach sort of material that's sort of like seems to be like like steamed and stewed millet or kale or something like that, or spinach. There seems to be what looks like a steak, like almost like a fish steak that's quite red, or obviously not fish, but seems to be almost like a reddish sort of type of pink texture and color to it. You've got these rings that look like they've been deep fried and battered. You've also got what looks like a bunch of greenish brown sort of flat chips, and then you've got this sort of mound of white, creamy pink white sort of colored what looks like potato mash basically. But yeah, you're starving, you're out of your rations, you're feeling famished. You had the sun, you had the ocean water, had the trauma of the experience you've just been in, so you're digging into this chow and you're starting to eat it. And yeah, it all tastes very seafoody. It's got that very salt heavy sort of seafood taste to it, but yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. It's very fresh. There's nothing artificial here. You grew up in Falls Edge. You're used to, probably at least once a day you'd have a meal that's sort of like a protein strip or a carbo block sort of cooked in different ways. But, this is all fresh food. And in fact, let's do a quick dice roll to see what your fortitude looks like, to see how you keep all this down. 5 plus 2 is 7. Yeah, you're fine. You have no problems. You enjoy the food. It's definitely different. Definitely a different sort of food that you're used to, but you really enjoy this, the food, and your character manages to get their energy levels back up and feeling a lot more well-to-do after having crash landed on the planet of Ozovan. So the guy sits down with you and he has a bite to eat as well, gets himself a hot drink for yourself as well. It's sort of like almost like, again, has a slight salty texture to it, a little bit almost like a brine-like texture to it, but really, sipping at it, it's quite nice. It's got a bitter sort of taste, a very invigorating sort of warm sort of black liquid as well. And but he's drinking it, so you're drinking it too. It's definitely an acquired taste, but you seem to be enjoying it. So you end up getting a bunch of you end up getting a whole bunch of sitting down and eating and basically having a chat with this guy. He says, yeah, so we'll head back to town pretty soon, and hopefully we'll find out what's happened, and see maybe something you can do while you're here on planet, and maybe find your new ship, or maybe if you want to stick around, you can probably do that too. Yeah, we'll have a think, see what you want to do, but don't worry about that at any moment. But yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, and so you go, oh yeah, Ozovan, like where are you? Where is that? And I've heard of it, but I don't actually know where you're at. He said, "Oh, you heard of it, have you? Oh, that's good. You must be from this quadrant then, if you've heard of it, because not many places outside here have heard, unless you're a rich bugger and then you've got like the money to pay for some of the expensive seafood that they export off planet here. But no, we're down way down in the galactic southwest, in the fringe world alliance worlds, right on the very outskirts. So it's us in vicinity mostly down here, and a bunch of free flaggers. So assuming you look like you've got a free flagger look to you." He said, "Oh yeah, I was the ship I was in, the Duplicity Vice was a free flagger ship out of Fool's Edge." I said, "Oh yeah, I've heard of Fool's Edge. That's those asteroid places, isn't it? You got those asteroid cities and asteroid little planetoids." He said, "Yeah, that's where I'm from. I was on the Leeward cluster, Trojan cluster, called Happy. My dad had a workshop. We worked on retrofitted pods." Automated pods, turning them into starships for crews and for people. That's actually where I met my captain, but well, I guess my former captain now. And the reality of the trauma that you've been through, the fact that your first ship and your first time out in space has led to the loss of all hands and the destruction of all of your crew is pretty intense, and so you end up. Let's get something that's a little bit more emotionally appropriate. Let's go here and go back to and do the. And so you end up, so he goes, "Oh, okay, well, I probably want to try and get back to Fool's Edge, I guess. I'm not really sure what to do here." He says, "Oh, well, if you're a free flagger, then, you can probably find yourself some ships, and there's a bunch of free flaggers that, do trade out of the capital. That's where we're heading. We're heading to the capital on the planet Posidor. That's where most of the free flaggers ships end up doing their trading. So, come down and maybe find yourself a crew there, or, find yourself something that you can maybe get yourself something that you could do, or, see what happens. But in the meantime, I'll rest up today and tonight, and I'll get you some lodgings, and then we'll get you to work over the next few days." And so, I don't think there's anything else we really want to talk to this guy about. He sort of leaves us be, lets us finish our food, which we scoffed down, and then he goes and takes us to some lodgings, very nearby, one of those sort of 4 or 5 story sort of elevated metal gantry type, stacked type of little apartment buildings, and you can see as you walk in that there's just people. As I said, you're getting the impression that there's like maybe 1,000 people on this island, maybe a little bit more. Like, it's a pretty sizable place. Is doing sort of reasonable trade, you can see lots of product that's being pulled together. You're seeing lots of, dried seaweeds. You're seeing lots of, processed goods, things like that, which is, doing really, really well. And stockpiling all these goods that they're sort of collecting from the ocean as they're sort of making their way around the area. So around the waters of Ozovan. You get taken to this building, and you sort of have this small little apartment. It's very small, but you grew up on Fool's Edge, where space was a premium. You grew up on you were just on a ship, and you were just bunking out in your workshop in the aft part of the Duplicity Vice. So you were pretty comfortable with small spaces. If anything, this is quite expansive. You're not in a bunk. That's like a little bunk type, little bed type, cot bed type thing, and a little wash basin, little sort of shower. It's a pretty nice little setup, all things considered. And you are absolutely exhausted. And so he says, "Oh, look, mate, rest up for the rest of the day, and then I'll come and get you for breakfast in the morning, and then we'll go. I'll take you around, and I'll introduce you to a few people, and maybe get you to give us a hand before we over the next few days before we get into town." So, and then you are left to your devices. Let's have a think about what we'd want to do for this day. So we don't need to worry about food or anything, because we've just been fed, so we don't need to worry about rations. There's plenty of water and everything around. Maybe we want to take an opportunity tonight before we do anything else, to maybe review the sensors from that disc we bought and have a look at that. So we're going to do a dice roll, and we're going to do another intellect check. And so we plug in, we get a 3 minus plus 0, which is a that intellect. So let's do this dice roll, properties, and we go 1d10 is equal to a 4 intellect. And so you end up, so it was a 3, was it? Oh yeah, it was a 3. That's okay, we can change that. So you get there's a little projector, little display set up, very old school, sort of very, looks a little bit like something that something that would be more of like an electronic display, very, I'm trying to think of the, very Fallout type technology, one of those types of displays. So you get your little credit disc and you put it into the display unit, and it brings up your balance, and you have 180 credits in your balance, which is not a huge amount, but also not nothing. But you then also have a file there that you can access, and so you click on the file and you immediately start seeing sort of sensor images that are being distorted somewhat, but you can see the ship itself, what looks like almost like tentacles or other types of things coming out of this sort of this rip in the space-time, and you really, honestly, you can't really understand what's happening. It doesn't seem to make any sense. All you can see is these things, these shadowy sort of things coming out of this tear in space-time and crashing into the ship, causing it to explode. And then as it explodes and the bubble goes out of the plasma, you can see it sort of distorts and gets sucked into the rift just before the escape pod launches. The feed just cuts off, and you're automatically you find yourself sent. That's when you then launched. So the breach in the space-time sort of collapses down into nothing in the moment just before you depart. But look, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're still experiencing trauma, you're not really clear as to what's going on, so you end up just deciding to have an early night. You look out you go outside onto the sort of the landing of the stairs upon which you walk to get to this little sort of apartment about 3 floors up, and you look out over the sky and you just see thousands of stars, just stars everywhere. Again, it's you know what stars look like, but there's just something about seeing a sky full of stars without having sort of the impinging view or the opaque, slight opaqueness of glass or some other type of viewing membrane before you know. It's just your natural eyes looking out over this expansive water world and this clear sky punctuated only by the occasional little patch of cloud, and you can just see what looks like a galaxy. And it's a galaxy that is huge, and that's like a Milky Way that stretches all the way across the horizon. You can also see, in fact, let's do a roll. Let's do an awareness roll. So yes, that's at a 0. It's a -7. You can actually see a series of what look like dots of light crossing the sky, counter to the rest of the framework. So rest of the stars. So there's obviously satellites and other things that are in orbit around the planet, which is fantastic. So, but yeah, you are exhausted. So you end up and that is where you then go to sleep. Okay, I'm just going to pause this for a second. I shall be back in a few minutes. I'm just going to have a little break, get myself some water, and we'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Let's bring up stuff. Okay, let's go. Let's get, bringing back 2 things here. So we are back. It is the next day. So we are going to, we wake up in the morning and we are met by Jediah, and he takes us back to the mess and the canteen, and we get ourselves some breakfast. It's packed today, and this time there's like at least a couple of hundred people at this point in time. It's still like probably 7:38 in the morning on this third day since we've been planetside and landed on the planet. And so we have definitely found ourselves, in amongst a lot of people. You're used to lots of people around you, cramped spaces, all that sort of stuff, having grown up on Falls Edge. But there's a lot of people after having been alone for sort of almost 2 days. And before that, been on a small ship for a couple of weeks. This is a pretty intense experience to have so many people around, but everybody seems pretty friendly and seems eager to get to work. And so Jediah approaches you, you're sharing some breakfast, and he goes, "Oh mate, I'll introduce you to somebody. This is Novak. This is somebody who is in charge of our sort of mechanic repair area. They're doing a lot of work at the moment because we got a lot of processing happening on board before we get back to the capital. So yeah, I was hoping you might be able to give him a hand, and maybe you might be able to give him a hand over the next couple of days before we get into the capital. Happy to pay you some credits too if for your time. Don't want to just enslave you or anything. But yeah, if you want to, I'll definitely pay you for your time if you're up for that, and then we'll make sure that but you'll get food and board and everything like that. But yeah, do what you can to help Novak out, and really appreciate that, mate. And so you're confronted by a very tall man, dark skin, very sort of, very muscular build, wearing sort of like, a sort of like a singlet apron type of get up around, covered in oil, sort of over almost like a poncho type thing over what seems to be some, pretty robust sort of Hessian and sort of canvas type fabric, sort of clothes and dungarees. You can notice that they're wearing really thick leather type shoes with thick sort of rubbery sort of soles, almost wider than normal, maybe to give them a little bit of additional balance in the case of some weather. And so he goes, pleasure, mate. Great, good. Glad to hear that you're a mechanic. Always use some more mechanically minded people. A bunch of fishermen and kelp farmers here, mate. So not good for any sort of real mechanical work. With this island, this float-on lives and dies here. With the machinery we got on board. So got plenty to do, mate. If you're good for a hard day's work, we'll definitely make it worth your while in terms of credits. And so you spend the day shadowing Novak and going around and helping him. That audio sounds a little bit on the loud side. Let me bring that down a little bit. There we go. And we'll put the lo-fi back on. There we go. And so you spend the day with that. Now, let's go around. We're going to do some skills checks here. We're going to turn that off. We're going to do a check to see how effective you are at your abilities. So I reckon, let's have a look. What would we do in terms of skills? Let's have your character. You are a mechanic by skill, so you're going to get advantage on all of these checks. You are a worker also by background. Novak also seems to be a worker, so you'd have some. We're going to do let's do a charm check with advantage, since you get a charms a negative, but you're going to do it with advantage because you're a worker, and this guy's also a worker in terms of his background. So let's do the first one as a charm check to see how you get on well with Novak over the course of the day. So the first roll is that is cocked. That is also cocked. Didn't even know you could do that with these electronic dice. Okay, 4 minus 2 is 2. That's not good. Let's do another roll. And it is a 5 minus 2 is 3. So, look, you don't really get on very well with Novak. He seems to be much more, not very talkative, friendly enough in terms of his demeanor, but doesn't really, you're not going to get anything out of him in terms of like personal life discussions. He's all about business and working. So let's see how, if your words can't help you, let's see how your abilities do. Now, you're a mechanic, so you are, let's go back to your character. So you're a mechanic, so you have an intellect-based I think your I think your main skill for mechanics is fortitude. Let's just double check in terms of what your primary ability is. I'm pretty sure we add fortitude for mechanics. Mechanics. It'll be under special abilities, which we won't get to until level 2. Special abilities, mechanic. Evasion. No, that's for that particular activity. Oh, that's because it's doing interface, yeah. So mentalist is intellect. Merchant is power. Yeah, so fortitude. So I add fortitude. So it's a +2. So it's advantage +2 for any skills checks associated with being a mechanic. So let's go back to our dice rolls. Let's turn that off. Let's do properties. Let's do 2d10s. So we're going to 2d10 +2. And let's see how we go on our abilities here. Okay, and a 5 and a 2, so a 7. 7's pretty good. Not too bad. I'll say that over the course of the day, you notice that a lot of the materials, a lot of the machinery seems to be very functional. It seems to be very, not super technologically advanced. You know, you're used to taking care of starships and repairing and retrofitting ships for orbit. But, you know, everything seems to be pretty, well maintained. Most of the stuff you're picking up pretty quickly in terms of where there's damage, where you can see there's just wear and tear. There's a lot of, like, just general wear and tear, either, repair type maintenance or even preventative maintenance. You're very comfortable around some of the AG manifolds and other small micro anti-gravity field generators that are used, whether it's by some of the lifts and things like that. And so you find yourself sort of being geared, sort of directed towards doing some of those types of tasks. So that's really, don't really get much out of Novak over the course of the day, but you do get into a pretty good state when it comes to working and getting the equipment and stuff done. And so I'll say that over the tour you get paid 14 credits for your day's work on that. So that's going to take your character, and we're going to go to here and inventories, and we're going to change the credits to 204. Very good. Excellent. Okay. Very good. So you managed to get some additional credits from working on this, and yeah, your time is at your own. Well, let's do another intellect check tonight with regard to the events or the materials or the items that we have. Let's have a look and go to dice rolls. Let's get a browser again. We're going to just do 1d10 this time. Again, 1d10 plus intellect, which is 0. No, yeah, 0. 1d10 plus intellect, which is 0, which is just average. And it is a 3 plus 0. Yeah, again, just can't make anything more from the recording from the escape pod of what destroyed your ship and what those, the tear and in the space-time and what all of those sort of almost smoky type tentacles were. So, no luck, but you managed to have another day, get through and do some first work with Novak, which he seemed, reported back, says you didn't really get, wasn't really like, hitting it off super well, but you did manage to do a good job with the tasks that are required. So we're going to do 3 days of activities. That was the first day. The next day I'm going to roll on the roll table to start with to see if there's any specific event that takes place. So that's going to be a D6. And 2, no, we're fine. Some rain and weather and inclement weather come across the ship. Nothing serious in terms of whether you're on a larger island now. So it takes a lot in order to do anything to make to sort of destabilize this sort of floating island you have. So you're pretty comfortable that you're all sorted. So nothing else there. So we'll just do another work day. So again, we'll do another charm check. No, we'll do. We'll leave the charm. We're not going to get anything out of that. So it's 2d10 plus 2. So advantage of 2d10. Let's see how you go on this day. Oh, we get a 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. That's a max. That's above max level on the thing. So that you great. You're getting the hang of this stuff really quickly. You're getting an idea of what the machines are working on. You're starting to see some of the processing machines that are processing. They're taking some of the seaweed and turning it into a powder, and they're taking others, and that you're processing it up and frying it and drying it out. And there's others of the seaweed, and it's sort of being carved up and then put into some what a large sort of almost like earthen type of casings that are sort of like preserving these items, and others are being flash frozen, and you can see it's really a really strong sort of food processing sort of role here on this island. And you get through the day. You did really well, so it's a 9 on the dice. I think last time we rolled was it 7 plus? I think we did 18. So this will be 18 additional credits on this day. So we'll go back to our character. And so that's going to be another 18. 14 was 7, so 7 plus 9. It was 11, 22. So 25, 22, so that's going to take it up to 226 credits. So already made a couple of days credits. So we're getting on that base of sort of, a notional average of 10 credits a day. We're already doing really well. And in fact, we get a really positive feedback from the party, from Novak, who seems to be reporting in on our movements. And so we're going to do our final day's worth of work. Let's go back to our dice roll tables. Let's go there. Where are we? Dice rolls was another 2d10. This time it's a 6. That's a 1. So it's a 6 plus 2 is 8. So that's going to be a thing. Again, easy day's work. You can see now a lot of the work is starting to slow down on the fishing. There's not as much stuff being brought overboard. A lot more stuff being processed, getting all set up, ready to go in terms of the items themselves that are available. So we get, what was that dice roll? It was a 7 plus 2 is 9, so it's another 18 on that. So that's going to take us up to 244 credits on our disc, which is fantastic. And that is, we're going to do one more intellect check. Let's go to dice roll. Let's go here to properties. I probably should be rolling these at disadvantage, but let's go here and go to intellect. And it is an 8. An 8 plus 0. That's another intellect roll. Let's go here and let's put in D10. Properties. So another one. So there's a 1D10. 1D10. And that was a 8. So that's going to be an 8 intellect. So this time you've had a couple of days of hard working, you're feeling much better, you needed to get a 10 to start to get an idea that this thing that you're looking at is the stuff of nightmares. This scene that you're looking at of a ship being destroyed by an entity emerging from a tear in space-time is a thing of nightmares. It's something that is an absolute terror and threat that exists across the galaxy, and you have no idea what it is, but all you can tell from looking at it is that, one, it is a tear in space-time. It is some sort of interdimensional barrier, and that something is emerging and had emerged and destroyed your ship. And as it did, you are just, it's so confounding in its breach of just basic logic as to what's happening that you just can't understand what is going on. But what you do get an understanding of is, or what you do get to sort of comprehend as part of this is that, let's do another intellect check and see if we want to share this information or no. I will say that as a 2 plus 0, we get the impression that we don't know whether we don't know not to share it. And so the next day we wake up and over breakfast we start having a bit of a chat with that of of Jediah, and he's going, "Oh yeah, how you sleeping, mate? You seem to be having a bit tired this morning." And you actually, before we do the intellect check, let's do a charm check, and I want to see what our how is this affecting us psychologically? Charm is -2, isn't it? -2, so that's a 4. So yeah, we're having some nightmare. We had some nightmares last night. Wasn't a great night's sleep, mate. I have to admit, I've got a bit of a sensor reading of what happened to the ship, and it doesn't make any sense. It's like something came at us from deep in space. There shouldn't have been anything there, but it's like all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, we've got this massive attack on us, and I don't really know. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like something was coming out of a tear in space, and the guy's going, oh, that sounds pretty scary. Oh, no wonder you're having nightmares, mate. Being attacked by some sort of space creature or something. Oh, I'd definitely though. Maybe someone in the capital you could raise it with. And you get the impression that he is very much out of his depth when it comes to this topic, but you're pretty comfortable that he seems to be genuine in his advice in seeking out someone maybe a little bit more learned in the capital that you are about to arrive in, which is very exciting. So let me quickly... We're going to go here and check on our quests log here. So we managed to survive 2 days in the ocean, and we managed to get rescued. And we've also found out we are on Ozovan. We had a quest of discover or understand sensors, a recording. And we have just completed that quest. We're also about to... We're also do work, and we're also about to we definitely have a quest to speak about recording. And that will be in relation to speaking to somebody who's a little bit more informed as to what the sensor readings, recordings are showing, as to what destroyed the ship that you were on before you escaped onto the surface of this watery planet of Ozovan. So, you are going to, you're coming to the end of your last day, and you get the impression that the following day you will be arriving at the planet, and I think that is at the planet's capital of Posidor, and I think that is where we are going to leave this particular first session. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a few things to continue to play around with the roll tables and everything I have in the background, and I think I might set up a little scene up here that sort of outlines some of the roll tables, whether it's the combat roll tables or whether it's other roll tables. Just set them all up so that we've got them all set up there. I've got some that are like event based, and I don't want to share those because I want that to be part of the story, but there are others that are like around combat or around investigations and things like that. Also, using the D10 as our main dice for this is definitely something I want to explore a little bit more. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. We have managed to survive onto the planet. We've worked really hard. We're on Haven's, I think it was Haven's Keep was the name of the island. We definitely I think what this is saying is we probably need something here that gives us details about the setting. Let's just quickly add that in now. And we're going to go location details. Yep, we're going to go here. We're going to go 36. Yep, and we're going to go to location details. And we're going to change that color to blue. Hit OK. I'm going to put that there. And then we'll go here and we'll go to another one. And we'll go to text. And so here, and we're going to go to location details. Okay, and again, we'll go to, yep. Okay, and so we have, it is a, we're just going to list these things out. Water, planet, Ozovan, things we've discovered. It's a water world currently on Floaton Haven's Keep, heading to capital. It is Haven's Keep, fishing and processing Floaton, heading to capital of world called Posidor. So we're going to just put that there just so we've got those details available to us. Yep, there we go. Perfect. Let's add them in there in terms of those details. So that way we've got all of those documented. We've also got to go back to our primary here. We have been brought on board. Here we have, the idea is that we will keep these for our record for next time. Let's go here and go worked, spoke to Jediah, spoke and worked with Novak. I managed to comprehend but not understand recording. Yep, okay. And that is where we have left that. So I need to speak to somebody about recording. Let's just speak to someone on Posidor about recording. Yep, excellent. On Floaton. Okay, so we managed to understand the recording, but we need to speak to somebody about that. Other things we need to find is we need to find a new ship berth. We also need to secure rations. We are out of rations. We're being fed at the moment, so we have secure rations. We also need to... what else do we need to do? I think that's the main things we need to do at the moment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are going to leave this very first stream. We have been successful in surviving the destruction of the ship we were on. We've landed in the planet of Ozovan in its watery ocean. We survived being attacked by tentacled squid-like creatures that were trying to deflate the inflatable buoy that was keeping our escape pod afloat in the waters. We survived some inclement weather. We were rescued just before our rations ran out by a floaton called Haven's Keep, where we were basically put to work for a few days, for 3 days, while we were as a mechanic with Novak, who we didn't really get along well with. Wasn't bad, just didn't really strike a balance or strike a chord with them. But they seemed pretty happy with our work. We got earned some credits, so we've got 244 credits now, which is good. Full belly, but yeah, we're definitely short of some rations. So it might be something we want to get before we leave the floaton and make our way to that of the capital of Posidor, which is where we are going to start our very next stream. No idea when that's going to be. No idea what this is going to look like and how we're going to do that. There's definitely a part of me that would love to carve out some of this sort of time to do these types of streams around this time, but it might be some other time. I love to do one at least once a week, if not every couple of weeks, one of these streams, and so we can continue on the story of finding out what's happening to Nate, what destroyed his ship, and whether he can survive this being stranded basically alone on an unknown waterworld planet in the far reaches of the Dark Diaspora. But that is it for today. Thank you so much to everybody who jumped online and joined me for the stream. I will be posting this blog as a vlog or as a recording on my channel. So if you would like to go and check that out, please do so. Any comments, suggestions, ideas you have would be very much welcome in the comments section of those videos, so that I can hopefully make this experience more interactive. The roll table ones I've already captured down on my notes to add a roll tables page, but I think all the others worked really, really well. Maybe having some imagery around the enemies, not necessarily having the different creatures here in terms of their stat blocks, but instead having some images of the creatures, just so it's a little bit more visual. I think that would be a good idea. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great day, and may the journey continue.